समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
Zohran Mamdani takes us to New York this week for national interest, and we are looking at many issues that arise from his politics, his kind of socialist, hard socialist appeal, and also Indian politics and also Indian economy. And before I go there, let me also remind you once again that this is the time for you to renew your subscription, your paid subscription to The Print. If you have it, please top it up. If you don't have it, please take a paid subscription. As I speak on the screen, you are getting instructions, a demonstration on how to do it. It doesn't take more than 20 seconds of your time, and it costs you very little, because unless you do that, we cannot bring you the quality of journalism that you've got used to seeing from The Print. So please go ahead, do your bit, and I meanwhile get on with the business of this week's national interest. So Zohran Mamdani is going to be in the talk, not just in the New York City or American politics, but also in India. Or rather than saying that he will be in the headlines, we can use language more apt for the digital era and his demographic, which is he's going to be a most searched name for some time. There is enormous oomph to a 33-year-old, super stylish and articulate Muslim of Indian origin, who's now a front runner to govern the most powerful, rich, also quite Jewish, and cosmopolitan city in the whole world. In India, it has played into the Hindu-Muslim binary. In the minds of the Hindu right, it is the conquest of another great global city by a subcontinental Muslim, Sadiq Khan of London being the other. For the Muslim population, Muslim and the left population, this is something to celebrate. Also, for the Muslim population in India and also those on the left, it's a special matter of satisfaction that he's risen in New York, particularly because it's seen in the context of Muslims not being able to win power or get into powerful positions in India. That is the binary right now in which it's playing out in India. Mamdani's support for Gaza, strong anti-Trumpism in the US president's own borough, Donald Trump's own borough, and endorsement by the Democratic left make him a personality important enough for Donald Trump to write a long post on. See that post on your screens. He's paid him compliments like a 100% communist lunatic, one who looks terrible, his voice is grating, and so on. Of course, Trump also links his rise to his pet hate, the quartet of women politicians on the Democratic left, who he calls the Squad, led by Democratic New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or AOC as she's called. The president's choice of words is, of course, Trumpian. In the Trump world, communist or lunatic might be a common enough description for anybody he dislikes, used as casually as old Captain Haddock of Tintin comics, dismissing somebody as a pestilential pachyderm or simply a vegetarian. To be abused by President Trump isn't a liability in New York, because New York is strongly a democratic city, and also Mamdani's support base is not exactly Trump's fan club. Do I have a problem or even an opinion on Mamdani's rise? The answers are problem, no, and opinion, it's great to see Indians rise in Western democracies. We took pride in Rishi Sunak. On the Indian right, Kash Patel, J. Bhattacharya, and even Hindu-American Tulsi Gabbard are celebrated, as is the star cast of Indian CEOs, particularly in American tech business. Mamdani will be a stellar addition to these. I know what I'm saying is triggering a lot of our viewers. I am triggered too, but not for the same reasons as some of you might be. His faith, his views, support for Gaza, dislike for Narendra Modi or Benjamin Netanyahu, these are the reasons many in India are unwilling to celebrate it as yet another Indian conquest. For them, it is a conquest by the wrong guy, which should be read as a guy from the wrong faith. This polarization has played out among the diaspora in New York as well. You can see Hindu groups opposing his election. I'm not so affected by any of this. If anything, I might have the boasting rights that the new mayor of the world's greatest city, if he wins, is someone whose mom I hosted twice on Walk the Talk. A story about which I will tell you in the postscript. So, what am I triggered by? I am triggered by something. So, what am I triggered by then? To understand this, let me take you through some highlights of his election promises. He will eliminate fares on buses, so free bus rides. Hello Delhi, Karnataka, Telangana, and then keep on adding other states in India. Freeze the rent on 2 million already subsidized housing units. Remember your Rent Control Act, the history of your Rent Control Act, and to build more than 2 lakh homes. That means the city government will build more than 2 lakh homes over 3 years through Social Housing Development Agency. Every Indian city has some such monstrosity. DDA, MHADA, BDA, isn't it? Then he says he will provide universal child care for kids from 6 weeks to 5 years of age. Remember our own Anganwadis? And hold your breath, Sarkari grocery stores with low prices. Once again, I take you back to the memory of our own fair price shops, Kendriya Bhandars and cooperative supermarkets. All of these ideas are so familiar to two generations of Indians as the greatest failures of the socialist state. If you were also parked in the ration shop line by your mom as I was when just 10, to hold your spot until she finished cooking lunch and came to buy almost anything we needed, almost everything you needed, you will know what I mean. From sugar at 200 grams per head per week in 1967 to wheat and even cloth by the meter. Then she would cut that cloth and stitch for us. Everything for the working classes was to be found at the state-run shops. If you're not from among the working classes or your parents or grandparents were not, you would not have had this experience. That is how the sham called Indian socialism actually privileged the already privileged, because the punishment for socialism was mostly inflicted upon the working classes. Even if you did not have an experience like this, you've seen the state-built concrete working class housing in our cities, which are concrete slum clusters by another name. In New Delhi, I call them slums. I call them slums built by Delhi Development Authority. And every city has its own version. Our free bus services are now collapsing along with the state government finances. All of the ideas that failed so spectacularly in the country of his origin, Mamdani is now promising to replicate in a city lakhs of Indians have made their new home, mostly as economic refugees. Mamdani is too young to have picked these ideas from India, and unlikely his parents experienced too much of this. However, his love of socialism in a country that gave the modern world its capitalist dream and in the city that represents this breathless success is an interesting point. What's even more interesting is the appeal this finds among America's young. This is especially so in the big cities, all run by Democrats. And Mamdani, if anything, stands way to the left of the squad. Socialism, ironically, oozes significant sex appeal in a city that should be the brand ambassador of capitalist success. Or is it the case that such success ultimately breeds socialism? That you become so rich you can afford socialism? Europe swerved hard left after the riches piled up and has been course correcting lately. Because socialism in rich societies also brings in immigration, racial and religious diversity, and truth be told, tribal internal conflicts from distant lands. Those then get transported to the new homes which these immigrants make. Inevitably, it draws a reaction and the right returns. Even in Scandinavia, the home of the best socialism, the right is making a comeback. India's problem is the bad ideas never left us. Only good people, the best minds left us. Millions of our brightest, most ambitious, entrepreneurial people made America their home. What were they fleeing if not our fake socialism? Every Indian who risks their lives even today on a donkey route is fleeing socialism, which survives in the Modi era. Check out how much the Modi government spends on distributive welfare and how BJP, supposedly a right-wing party, has embraced the freebie culture of Indian socialists and the Congress party. In January 1990, while covering the unraveling of the Soviet bloc, I learned some taxi driver's wisdom in Prague, Czech capital. Except that this taxi driver had a master's in engineering and was waiting for Václav Havel to fully liberate the economy. You Indians fought back for your political freedoms in the emergency, he said, but how come you never fought for your economic freedoms? He had the answer. I was still thinking, but he had the answer already. He said, because you had never experienced economic freedom. You did not even know what you were denied. So, what will you fight for now? This was a conversation at Prague's Wenceslas Square, where a sparkling streamer hung from a building saying, "Welcome back home, Mr. Bata." He was driven out by communism, the driver said, but built a fortune in Canada, and now all you Indians wear his shoes. And as I promised you, here is the postscript and my story of that Walk the Talk with Meera Nair. So Meera Nair and I set up our Walk the Talk interview on a really chilly January morning in 2005 in Delhi's Jama Masjid. We had just about started in that big compound of Jama Masjid when the Shahi Imam arrived, his voice booming, furious. एकदम रुकिए, ये आप नहीं कर सकते हैं. Stop at once, you can't do it, he said. Then he recognized me and softened. Also because NDTV, where the show appeared, had sought permission to record. He saw me, he softened and he said, आपके लिए इज्जत है. आप जब मर्जी रिकॉर्ड कीजिए, इनके लिए नहीं. We respect you. You can record whenever you like, but not her. When I protested and I asked and explained to him what a brilliant and globally respected woman Meera Nair was, he wasn't impressed and used adjectives that I'd rather not repeat. I wouldn't even commit the sin of imagining if Maulana Sahib had seen Meera Nair's Kama Sutra or maybe heard about it. But we retreated, Meera Nair and I, recorded in the already bustling street outside and concluded the conversation over a breakfast of naan and nihari.